Scooterheads, welcome to another exceptional episode of the Electric Scooter Podcast. We've had more than 70, 74, 75 episodes so far, and I've only talked about podcasting itself once. So I think it's okay today if we talk a little bit about podcasting. And we are going to talk about a paramedic who recently went to Washington State and had his first experience with a rental scooter company. If we have time, we might dip a little bit into the Electric Scooter Guides Scooter Forum and see what's going on there. All that and more on this, episode 74 of the Electric Scooter Podcast. Before you get on an airplane, do you actually download so many podcasts that your phone weighs more? I'm a podcaster only over the last couple years, but prior to that, I was a consumer of podcasts for many years. As I traveled the world, it was always nice and comforting, uplifting, interesting, engaging to hear information from my home country. I used to listen to Click and Clack, the Tappet brothers on NPR's Car Talk. Dan Carlin has an amazing history podcast. There's just too many to mention. One of the podcasts I listened to when I was living in Bangkok was the Bangkok Podcast. And one of the hosts was Evo Terra, who has gone on to become really an expert in podcasting. And I went down a little rabbit hole, and I'd listened to him for years. I never knew what he looked like, so I just went to YouTube to see if there were any YouTube videos about Evo Terra. And I hesitate when I do something like that because when you listen to somebody on a podcast for a long time, you have in your mind this vision of what you think they might look like, and they never do. Sometimes they're completely the opposite. But I thought, what the heck, check it out, see what Evo's got going, if he's got a presence on YouTube. And not a lot, but there was a video, actually two videos that I found very interesting. One was from Fox News, and they were interviewing Evo because he was on a beer and sausage diet. Yes, you heard me correctly, a beer and sausage diet for a month. Guess what month? Well, October, obviously. And it was supervised by his doctor, and he lost weight. The other commercial was for Sprite, which is kind of like 7-Up. It's a lemon lime soda. It was a Sprite commercial from Pakistan, and Evo Terra was in the background cooking or something. I found that peculiar and interesting. How did I get on this jag about Evo Terra? Well, I listened to him for a few years while I was in Bangkok and after I left Bangkok. And he now has a podcast about podcasting. I kind of consider him the ultimate authority in podcasting. And one of the things that he mentioned was the Infinite Dial 2022. Which apparently, from what I can gather, looks like a get-together that's held in Los Angeles. And one of the things they talk about is Edison Research, which is a report on the current state of podcasting. Well, it says a significant part of the report is on the current state of podcasting. So I want to go over that real quick, kind of before we get into the scooter part of the episode. Podcasting continues to grow in the United States with 177 million Americans aged 12 and over having at least checked out a podcast in the year 2021. That is roughly equivalent to the same number of Americans that use Facebook in 2021. That's according to the report. I don't know if that will continue to climb because considering we had a worldwide pandemic, there were probably more people listening to podcasts than normally do because more people were working from home. I don't know, that's speculation on my part. But included in the report, it also said those who listen to weekly podcasts consume 8 episodes in an average week. Yeah, for me, it's way above that. I would say I listen to 4 podcasts per day. Podcasting as a term is more familiar than ever because the word is penetrating the consciousness of America, which is now at 79%. So at least 79% of Americans know what a podcast is. Who doesn't? Who out there doesn't know what a podcast is? I found that interesting. And as a podcaster, and you as Scooterhead listeners to podcasts, I thought maybe you might find that interesting. By the way, if you want to look up Evo Terra's video from Pakistan, it's only like 30 seconds or something. It's called, "I'm So Hot in Pakistan, You'll Need a Sprite to Cool Off." One of the things that my man Evo Terra criticizes, by the way, about podcasters is too much superfluous audio. Too many flourishes and those kind of things. But hey, I don't make any money. It's my hobby. I do whatever I want. He's entitled to his opinion, and I actually agree with it. I've traveled to a lot of countries where every show on television, every sentence is marked by some kind of sound effect. The guy says something sounds a little goofy, you'll hear a boing. It just gets insane, and it's impossible to watch. Even if the content were compelling, you wouldn't be able to watch. But I do like to stick in my original music and little PSAs from people who've appeared on the show and that kind of thing. Hey, you know, it just comes with the territory. You listen to the Electric Scooter Podcast, along with the content, that's what you're going to hear.
Where are you girls from? Austria? Well, throw another shrimp on the Barbie and fire up the Electric Scooter Podcast.
Hey, there's an example of some superfluous audio right there. That's what you're going to get when you tune in, Scooterheads, to the Electric Scooter Podcast. A guy who makes commercials for something you're already listening to that he doesn't make any money doing. And speaking of money, how many people that you ask can actually say, what I do for a living is save people's lives? On a daily basis. There are doctors, right, and nurses. I'm sure they see people for foot fungus or babies that are coughing or certain things. It's not always life and death. But paramedics, emergency medical technicians, these are the guys that get in ambulances and drive to where there has been a horrific car accident. It could be an overdose. It could be any multitude of life-threatening issues. The person we're going to talk to here shortly is a paramedic. What are the differences between emergency medical technicians, or EMTs, and paramedics? Well, it's really the level of education and the type of procedures that they are allowed to perform on the people they are rescuing or transferring from the scene of an accident to the hospital. EMTs can administer CPR and glucose, oxygen, things like that, but paramedics can perform more complex procedures, like in certain IV lines. They can administer drugs. They can apply pacemakers. So Cody, who we're going to talk to in a minute, is a paramedic. So he is that higher level. And he actually has been through the schooling to become a nurse. He is qualified to be a nurse. He chooses to remain a paramedic because that's what he likes to do. Well, there's a variety of reasons that we could talk about on another episode maybe, but we're talking about scootering. And this time, Cody, who we talked with back in episode, I don't remember, but it was when him and a friend came to Las Vegas and rode beast scooters for the first time. I think they had both been on a scooter, or Cody had been on a scooter, and Damien maybe had not, but they rode Wolf Warriors in 116-degree heat. And in this episode, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't know, I continue to experiment on my audience because I've never done a phone interview before. And this time, while I'm on my computer, I'm here at the Scooter Dome studio, Cody is calling in on his telephone. I manipulated the audio. I dropped some of the bass, dropped some of the treble, and played with the mid-range and applied some compression. So hopefully it'll sound good. I think it does sound good. I don't feel compromised. Like the one episode I did completely on my iPhone, I felt the audio was compromised on that episode. While the content was still stellar, in my opinion, the audio quality itself was meh. So this experiment is to see if I want to continue to conduct interviews from people on their telephone. Because face it, for some people, it's just easier and more convenient. When I interviewed Tim West, Paul Somerville, and Chuck Temple of the Electric Scooter Podcast, those guys all have nice computer setups with microphones. So I did that all completely online. And listening back on those, they're pretty flawless interviews if you want to go way back to like the first 10 episodes of the Electric Scooter Podcast. So Cody got on an airplane, flew from Los Angeles to, of all places, Spokane, Washington. I was like, what? He loved it. He thought it was fantastic. Well, let's hear from Cody. He's saving lives while I'm talking jive. So let's talk to Cody. Let's talk to Cody. Our guest, who is a Tesla owner, and I would say intermediate scooter rider. Would you say intermediate because you don't own a scooter, but you happen to know people who own scooters and you've ridden a few scooters? How would you define your experience with scooters?
I'd say I've dabbled.
A scooter dabbler. Okay, scooter dabbler. So recently, didn't you make a trip somewhere?
Yes, I went to Spokane, Washington, east side of Washington. And while I was there, I needed to get somewhere, and I actually rented a Lime scooter for the first time.
Where was it? Was it just sitting on the sidewalk somewhere?
Yeah, outside of Taco Bell. Went into Taco Bell to use the restroom, so I had to buy something. I bought a taco. And
Taco Bell has pretty good restrooms usually, I've found. Has that been your experience?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, I think this one was fine.
Yeah. And wait. You went to Taco Bell, or as we call it sometimes, Taco Smell, and you bought a taco?
A taco.
Whoa.
It was an emergency.
Who does that? Oh, an emergency taco. I got you. Okay. I didn't realize when you first
I needed
said
the
that.
code for the restroom, and I was a foreigner to the area. So
Because you were in Spokane, Washington, right? Which is,
yeah,
isn't that really close to Idaho?
yeah, about 25, 30 minutes.
Wow. And while you were up there, we'll get to the scooter here in a minute, but while you were up there, did you have occasion to visit Idaho? Did you visit Coeur d'Alene?
I stayed in Coeur d'Alene.
Whoa, that's on my bucket list, dude. I've always wanted to go to Coeur d'Alene. Is it as spectacular as they say?
I mean, I think between Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, they both had the pros and cons, but it's definitely a stark difference in
Beauty.
I guess. Well, no, the scenery kind of looks the same.
No
except
way.
for Spokane has like homeless people and graffiti everywhere.
I've seen pictures of Coeur d'Alene, and it is spectacular in the photos. And I've seen pictures of Spokane. I've never been to either one. And Spokane just looks like a city.
Yeah, I mean, I would say Coeur d'Alene's more like a small town, and Spokane's kind of a small city relative to Los Angeles or something like that.
So how are the tacos at the Taco Smell in Spokane?
I think it's pretty similar to where I live.
Same mixture of spices and technique for cooking and all that. Okay, so you went into Taco Smell, and you got a taco, and you came out, and bing, on the sidewalk was a Lime scooter.
Yeah, so I downloaded the app and took maybe 30 seconds, and I was riding within maybe 30 seconds. It wasn't hard to figure out.
And I know, of course, you carry a helmet with you everywhere you go. So the Lime scooter, when you get a Lime scooter just off the sidewalk like that, it's kind of like, I don't know, mixing up with someone of the opposite sex that you don't know anything about their background or anything like that. And you just plunged headlong with no protection on your head.
Yeah, that's kind of what I did. There was two scooters sitting right next to each other, and how I decided was one had 10 miles of charge on it, and the other one had about 11 miles of charge. So I went with 11 miles of charge. I didn't know how far I was going to ride. I was waiting for my buddy, and I was like, I'm going to go take this thing for a ride and see how it goes. And I rode to Riverfront Park, and it was pretty cool. I noticed when I got in the park area, it was going real slow. I thought the scooter was dying, but I guess they slow the speed in when you're in a certain area. They like
Whoa.
set a governor to like 6 miles per hour or something.
Ah, that blows, man.
I thought the thing was dead.
And they have the capability to do that. You sure it wasn't just because, you know?
100%. It said on the app or something. It said somewhere that it slowed.
Yeah, I got to know how you know that, and let's talk about that because I believe that there are scooters that intentionally slow the miles per hour down so that you can get more range. Like when you get near the bottom, that's something super simple. But to say that, you know, somebody's...
It slowed in the park area because it said something. It said reduce speed due to whatever, pedestrian.
Really?
Area. Yeah, something like that.
It told you that. It said... You're
I don't
coming
know if
up
it said
on a
the
park.
scooter, on my phone, or on. It said that somewhere. 100%.
Wow.
I don't remember if they sent me an email. I think it said on the screen.
How are you
something.
supposed to run skateboarders and unicyclists off the road at 6 miles per hour? You just can't do it.
Well, I think that's the idea.
Oh yeah, it probably is, isn't it? It kind of lowers the fun level. It definitely lowers the risk level, but sometimes the risk level is proportionate to the fun level.
Well, that's actually why I jumped off. And then I was going to get on a Lime bicycle, but then I ended up just going for a walk because the park was nice. But they had Lime bicycles everywhere and Lime scooters all over the place.
So
and I even saw a dude picking it up and throwing it in the back of his truck. I guess what Lime does, I've seen videos on YouTube, is they pay you $7 per scooter you pick up. So you'll see guys driving around with trucks And I don't know how they have some sort of way of knowing which ones are dead or low battery, and you just scoop it up and you bring it back to charging center, and they pay you $7 per scooter you return.
You know why I'm laughing at that? I mean, it's great that they're providing an employment opportunity for all the people that are staying home, getting their pandemic checks because they don't want to go back to work. They'd rather be out in the open air. But I just had a visual of somebody in a Ram truck rolling coal.
Yeah. Rolling coal, that's what I've heard.
Picking up a little scooter that really is not harming the environment at all. I mean, it's infinitesimal. And he's tossing it in the back of a pickup truck.
That's exactly what I saw. I witnessed it. But I saw that on YouTube before, and then I saw a guy doing it.
Wow. It's ironically hilarious. Like in a bad way.
Yeah.
So you just had some free time and you were visiting a buddy or something up there?
Yeah. It charged me $5.76, and I rode for maybe 10 minutes. But
wow,
it said something about it charges you a certain amount to start it, or I didn't know if it charged per mile or per time. I forgot. I think it might have been both, but I forgot which one it was charging me.
Did it have like a little credit card swiper mounted to the handlebar or something?
No, you download the app and then you make an account, put your credit card in. I think it literally took me 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And I was riding. It was pretty quick. I mean, I liked it, but it was kind of crazy that there was a bunch laying on the sidewalk all over the place. And I don't know.
Wow.
It does look kind of trashy in a way, but it is pretty nice. I saw a lot of people doing it.
It is convenient. There are things I like and things I don't like about that. What I like about it is people who've maybe never ridden scooters will ride it, feel the wind on their face, and catch the bug, and then go buy their own scooter. Because ideally people would ride privately owned scooters that they know how to work on. They know how sharp it can turn at what speed, rather than being caught off guard like you are coming out of a taco smell and going, hey, that looks like fun, and jumping on a random scooter. You know, who knows what the person was wearing on their hands when the last person who rode it. They're probably not wearing anything unless it's dead of winter, so you're getting whatever was on their palms on your palms. And then you don't have a helmet. And you're not used to the way that particular scooter maneuvers. So there are obvious advantages. Hey, scootering's cool. I'm going to go buy one. And then the disadvantage, you get a cracked head. You know, you get
my friend is a paramedic in downtown Spokane. So once he starts running those calls, I'll let you know.
Yes, please do.
It started last week, but I'll let you know. I'm sure he's going to get a bunch of those calls because it did kind of feel a little dangerous.
Because if you think about it, all the statistics that you read, who is gathering those statistics? Lime and Bird. It's large corporations, right? They are the ones that have the digital statistics really at their fingertips. And they know how many people go to the hospital, how many people crash them, all the bad stuff. At the same time, people who own their own scooters are way less likely to crash. And those statistics aren't available. If people were more likely to crash, say private-owned scooters were more likely to crash, we wouldn't know. I mean, I broke my arm on a skateboard. I know for a fact that didn't go down in any kind of record or whatever, except at the hospital. I doubt the hospital even, put it into any kind of database or anything. Those guys were incompetent.
No, they report drownings usually.
Like if you drown on a scooter, it'll go into a database.
Well, it'll count as a drowning, but I don't think they count scooter accidents and stuff like that. Maybe, but
right.
I doubt it.
I know they did in at least two cities. One was in North Carolina. I want to say it was Asheville, which somebody from North Carolina I know says Asheville. So that's interesting. And the other one I think was Boston. They're two long, voluminous studies that I read, but I read them over a year ago. I think I talked about it on a previous episode. And they were saying that actually, I'm sorry. It was a government study that took those two studies from Lime and Bird or whoever they were. They were big corporations. And it sounded kind of scary, this and that, but the very bottom in little teeny print, it said fully 80% of patients who were checked into the emergency room. So that's kind of a finite and narrowed set of results there alone. But 80% of them had not one of these factors, but both. Number one, they weren't wearing a helmet. And number two, they were over the legal driving limit for alcohol. So they were drunk, not wearing a helmet, and they ended up going to the hospital. I mean, you can take that plus scooter equals emergency room. You can take drunk, not wearing a helmet, plus riding tricycles, whatever it is you want to add together, and you're going to end up with people in an emergency room. So that's what's unfortunate to me, is that the statistics that everybody touts, that everybody espouses, that everybody displays and makes public are from people not wearing a helmet, probably drunk, maybe even in a town that they don't even know how the sidewalks and streets are, or whether there's place for handicap that you can cruise up and down. And you add all those together, the statistics, I'm actually surprised that, they're not way worse. So $5.76, that sounds expensive to me for 10 minutes on a scooter.
Yeah, I mean, and I wasn't really, it depends. I mean, I was doing it to explore the city. I didn't really need to get anywhere. I just looked on the map and I saw a big park. So I rode to the park and wanted to see the town. But yeah, I think it would be expensive if I was using that to get places. I think I'd rather just have a bicycle. I was going to try the Lime bicycle, and I think with the bicycle, I mean, I'm not sure. It looks like you have to return them to a rack. You can't just, with a scooter, they just dump them all over the place. I think the bike, you have to get from like a bike rack and then return it to another bike rack.
So that bike rack you return it to might be 3 blocks out of your way, and then you end up walking 3 blocks anyway.
Yeah. I'm not sure if that was the case. That's what it looked like, though.
Now, you've ridden my kick scooter, and it's only 10 pounds. It's under 10 pounds, in fact, and it can go into a suitcase. Next time you travel, would you consider... What is your opinion on that? I mean, you're probably not going to go out and buy one, or would you? Or, if you travel, you were talking about going to different countries and that, would you think about packing a 10-pound push scooter with you that would not only provide you with local transportation, but maybe burn a few calories along the way?
It would definitely have to depend on the city that I was going to. I mean, I think if you're going to Bangkok, I don't know if the sidewalk is going to be,
No.
maintained well enough to ride one of those. If you're going to LA, I think everywhere's too far to ride like a push scooter. I'm going to Barcelona in 2 days. I heard that's a very scooter-friendly city, very walkable city. They have taxis and buses, and I think I haven't been to Barcelona yet, but that looks like a place that scooter would be perfect for.
I heard Israel is also very good. There's a lot of places that are specifically very friendly to scooters and simultaneously just have excellent roads. Because, those cobblestones I was on in Europe and Ecuador, not so bueno for a scooter. But here's the thing. Bangkok and even Ecuador, any of these places where I've been, you're just going to take a different approach to where you're going and how you get there. Because if it weighs only 10 pounds, you're going to scoot where you can, and then you're just going to pick it up. Because that thing, I'm telling you, you can sling it over your shoulders, and it weighs hardly anything. You barely even feel it. And so what you do is you kick scoot for a couple blocks where it's clear and nice, and then you just pick it up and walk.
Yeah, but don't you think doing an electric scooter would be a lot better in Bangkok? Or, I mean, just taking a taxi or moto taxi is so cheap. But I can't imagine riding a manual push scooter in Bangkok.
Parts of
if I
that.
was gonna,
Yeah.
I think I would do an electric one, right? I mean,
Oh yeah, man. I would like to have like a Wolf Warrior, some kind of beast scooter, and just get right out in there in traffic and mix it up. And I've done that on not electric scooters, but on gas scooters. And wow, yeah, man, you're exactly right. It is the way to go. But I'm just looking at a different way to burn some calories and still get around. They say that what was the ratio? Somebody did some type of experiment, and one person found that you get there 3 times as fast as walking, but if it's in a crowd, it can even be faster than a bicycle.
huh?
That is they're talking about scooting in city type areas with lots of crowds and curbs and this and that, because you can see a stretch of maybe smooth road ahead of you for a little bit, and you just put your foot down one time and you can glide for who knows, depending 20, 30 yards or even more, less obviously if it's uphill. But I think it's just a strategy, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to trying. I'm going to Mexico City and maybe Thailand. I don't know, a few other places in the near future. But you're going to Spain, man. If you had like a Zooter is the one that I have, Exo OTR, which weighs 9.9 pounds, they say. If you had one of those, man, you could, when you're at the airport, you can put your suitcase on there probably and wheel it around. But then as soon as you get your suitcase or your backpack or whatever to the hotel, you just take off. You just explore the city.
But imagine if you had like a small, what would you say, a small gradient or something where it's not too fast.
Right.
But imagine you could get somewhere really far, and then you could always take a taxi back. Like if you're staying somewhere, like where I stayed in Catalina Island one time, and the place I stayed was up a super steep hill, but going down it was awesome. I rented bicycles when I was there, and then going back was crazy. But if you could get somewhere where you're staying, where it's kind of downhill to the downtown area, scoot around, and then you could always take a taxi back, I guess. Whereas with the electric one, you can't really fold that up.
Mexico City, what I'm more concerned with are cobblestones as well as cracked sidewalks. And I know they got a lot of dogs. And I know a dog will sit there and just relax. But if it sees something going fast, like a jogger or a bicycle, they might be more likely to chase you on a scooter than other things. I mean, it's not really a genuine concern. It's really the cobblestones and the cracked sidewalks. So I think it's a different mentality that you just have to say, when you're on an electric scooter, you used to just plowing by and just going up and down everything and whatever. Go for it, man. Cracks in the road don't bother you. But I have to take a different mentality, somewhat in between a skateboard and an electric scooter, and just be aware of every single crack. What you do, the strategy, here's the hack. You put your foot down, the foot you use to propel yourself, whenever you see a crack or a curb or a bunch of loose dirt or gravel or something like that. That is when you put your solid foot down on the ground and propel yourself forward. And that works pretty good.
Yeah, that thing could clear cracks better than a skateboard for sure. I mean,
well, I do have an off-road skateboard, though. Have you ridden my Backfire Ranger? It has honeycomb solid tires on it, so it really goes off-road. I mean, it goes across grass and everything. So, yeah, I agree with you, the standard skateboard, but there are skateboards out there that are all-terrain and have larger tires.
yeah, I mean, you should know you broke your arm, you broke your humerus on a skateboard. So.
Yeah, on a actual skateboard with polyurethane wheels, not with It wasn't the Backfire Ranger. Honestly, I only, well, not only, but mostly I'll take it to the park and ride it on grass. But I lost the remote for that thing. I don't know where it is. I haven't ridden it for a while. He's saving lives while I'm talking jive. So let's talk to Cody. Let's talk to Cody. You don't drive an Audi. You don't have a roadie. He went to Spokane. Talking about Cody. There goes Cody. He's got to get back to saving lives. But I got a feeling he'll be with us next week, where we're going to make an attempt at dramatizing the electric scooter guides for him. Let's end the episode on this thought. I used to work for a guy that always said, if you don't fall down once in a while, that means you weren't leaning forward enough. So let me add to that and say we learn more from failure than we do from success. And oh yeah, if you're listening on your iPhone or Macintosh, scroll up on the Electric Scooter Podcast and give us 5 stars. Costs you nothing and puts a smile on my face. So till next time, keep the shiny side up and the dirty side down.